So, Mr. O'Toole, I see that you're interviewing for the bartending position?
That's correct. As my old employer, in one of his manic downswings, decided to close up shop. By the way, I'm curious, why is drinking required for the interviewing process?
Well, I mean, you are interviewing for the last bar on the left, and we do have a 2-drink minimum.
Knowing the proprietor, that makes perfect sense.
Do you have any experience?
I did serve/enable a group of inebriated miscreants for the past 15 years.
Oddly, I don't see any references listed.
I didn't think it was necessary, as I worked for you, and I didn't think you were a reputable source.
Well, as no one else has applied, if you can start now and work for Natty Light and Candy Corn, you're hired.
As Richard Gere said it best in An Officer and a Gentleman, I've got nowhere else to go.
They come from another world, spawned in the light years of space, unleashed to take over the bodies and souls of the people of our planet.
Shock Tales with Johnny Thunder.
And Baker.
Bringing a new dimension in terror.
Welcome back to the last bar on the left. Let us fill up your stein with our famous horror stout that is chock full of books, comics, TV shows, movies, music, as well as some shots of some haunted Halloween nonsense. He's the Godzilla. To my Tokyo, it's our master of ceremonies, Johnny Bubba Thunder.
I don't even understand that insult. Like, I don't even understand what that means. Because I ruin everything. Except you keep coming back after 15 friggin' years. But okay, sure, why not? Let's roll with it.
You just come in and just wreak havoc and destruction across the land. Well, man, I hope you're enjoying October in all of its glory. I mean, with like the hoodies, the apple cider, pumpkins, the BJs, hookers, cocaine.
What?
I'm sorry, what were we talking about again?
What the hell is wrong with you people?
What kind of show is this? October's been, well, I don't know about the rest of the stuff you said, but the first stuff is applicable to my October. But yeah, it's been nice. We've had some really nice seasonable weather here outside of Philadelphia. So it's been nice, daytime highs are in the 60s, 50s, lows at night are in the 50s, 40s, which have been great. It's been perfect for the haunted house. Working at the Bates has been awesome because usually early September, even into early October, we've had temperatures almost in the 80s, and you show up and it is so hot. You have actors that are having issues with dehydration and other issues attendant to the heat, whether it be the masks, whether it be their costuming, whether, my own costuming. So it's been really nice just showing up and driving there in the breeze and having the cool October nights. So yeah, it's been a nice October so far. Your yard looks great. By the way, the mire is up and running.
Mire is done, except for the stuff for Halloween night, throwing out a few animatronics, whatever. The mire is done. I've been tweaking the lighting over the last week. Props are out. Everything has been patched back up from last year.
Right.
Had a storm come in the other night, though. It was pretty tame. It was supposed to be 50-mile-an-hour gusts. Turned out to be a big nothing burger, thank God.
Well, don't worry, because annually,
we'll get
the Northeast, we get a nor'easter, literally the week before Halloween or the day before Halloween. Really, and everyone's always surprised that either it's 90 degrees the week before Halloween or there's a nor'easter. We literally, every year that I remember for the past, 15 years, we have a nor'easter right before Halloween.
It's happened almost every friggin' year. It's part of the season now.
Yeah, and even if they go off the coast, the residual storms are still enough to just ruin everything that everyone's done. So it's like you said, you've got to build it in as a contingency now every Halloween.
Yeah, I went out there, had everything. It's when I go out there and batten down the hatches and have secure everything and take things down and move things inside and it always blows over with nothing. It always turns out to be a nothing burger. When I don't do that and I'm not paying attention to the weather,
ends up on your neighbor's roof.
And Bob loves that. or Constantine.
Hey, speaking of which, the new monster dude out there is big dragonfly. What's his name?
Tombo.
Bondo, Drango.
Tombo.
What is the? How did you get that?
Okay, that's the Japanese name for dragonfly. So,
is that's also your tramp stamp, right?
It's going to be. Yeah, I got the camp stamp and I've got the tramp stamp. So
yeah. my big joke during our tour.
Yeah, that will live in infamy.
How long did it take you to build the dragonfly, dude?
I actually busted that out in about 3 weeks, I think. I really made some unbelievable.
Now, is that longer than your marriage?
Most. Oh, just no.
Just about the same amount of time.
But a lot more satisfying.
Yeah, you can't hang your ex-wife in the yard.
Can I? So, one of the best things, I guess, about my builds this year, like anything that I've done, like just patching things up, everything I've had, everything with scraps and things that I've had around in the shop, out and back. I didn't have to buy, except for I did have to buy, which is kind of pricey, is the Freeform Air, which is the sculpting putty that I use, which I just found online. I think it was in that Ultimate Prop Building group. Somebody was talking about this foam, foam sculpty stuff that's super cheap. And I was like, I probably could have used that. I was like, I didn't even know this stuff existed. So I came across that. I'm going to have to buy some and test it out because the Freeform Air plus shipping can be like $180 for like a 1 gallon container. Like they give you 2 buckets because you got to mix part A and part B together. Dries rock hard and it's super durable, paintable, sculpt. You can sand it, whatever. But it's pricey. You will pay. You will pay for it. But everything else was just scraps. I got tons of scrap. But then again,
I mean, you have the satisfaction that you built it custom the way you want it. You have the satisfaction of painting it and doing it the way you want, as opposed to buying something similar. You might, you'd be paying even more.
Yeah. Well,
for something similar.
Yeah, a lot of stuff that when I do build it, it's stuff that I can't find anywhere else. So it's nobody's carrying it. So it's something. If I'm gonna, I have to build it. If I'm gonna do this, I have to build it. There's no other options. There are some like scorpion props out there, which I've had my eye on that. Which Bob Cole built this insane one last year. Did you see that thing?
Yeah.
Oh my God,
it's crazy.
I looked at that and I've had the one in my head for years now. Unit 70, I think, makes one, but the thing is like freaking $5 or $6 grand or whatever. I'm like, you can't justify that for something that's going to be out there for like a week or two.
Your real doll girlfriend would get totally angry at that expense.
Exactly. My waifu.
Anyway,
she would
the
be
dragonfly
jealous.
Looks awesome. So congratulations.
Thanks, man. And you've been sending pictures. You've been sending me a plethora of pictures from doing your shenanigans at the baits, holding axes to people's throats, and being your normal, jovial.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fantastic talent. It's I'm glamorous and exciting, and I'm the life of the party.
That's why I have you here.
Exactly. It's been fun. I said I haven't been there in a couple of years, and it happened again last night where a bunch of people have come up to me and they were like, we took a picture with you. Literally pull up their phone and it's like 2016, 2015. And, they're like, we have to do our annual picture. The other day I left the post office and I'm walking. I had my Bates staff hoodie on that afternoon, walking back to my Jeep. And all of a sudden this guy in his work truck comes by and he slows down, and I thought I'm getting in my Jeep and I thought he was going to ask for directions or do you know where so-and-so is? And I looked at him and he's like, hey buddy. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, are you working at the Bates this year? And I said, yeah. He said, oh, awesome. Cause me and my family get our picture taken with you every year. I'll look for you. I'm like, all right, cool. I was like, keep those dreams alive, keep reaching for the stars. I'd like to make dreams come true. So, but yeah, there've been a lot of people coming through. Like, do you remember me? I was in. But the best part is where it's like they're seniors in high school. Like literally, they're seniors in high school. They're like, I got this picture when I was in 3rd grade with you, and I'm like, oh my God. And I'm still here. How it started, how it's going. But it's been nice to see, as I said, not just my coworkers and a lot of people on the staff, but actually a lot of returning customers, which has been awesome. So it's been fun.
Do you go through as a patron at any point during the season, like you and your wife and your kid, or do you just or by yourself?
Sometimes you can go through on a night off with your badge through everything. As a customer, you don't have to buy a ticket. And sometimes, I think, was it the last, not 2 years ago, when I was there, somebody was scared to go through this wife and daughter were too scared to go through the corn, so they made me go through the corn with them. So the look on all the other actors' faces as we're walking through, they're like, ah, and they look at me and they're like, what the F? Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, I'm escorting these people through. I do get to go through, which is nice. And just to see everything. And like I said, I still haven't gotten a chance to go through the hayride to see the new Wild West scene, because I've had people say, hey, I saw you out in the video that I said that we filmed for the saloon bar fight. So I'm anxious to see that.
Do you hit any other haunts in the area at all, or are you just too busy with...
No, just between work and family. And then just with the weekends tied up with the Bates, I really haven't had an opportunity to go out to many anymore.
And also, being the proprietor of the last bar on the left, that also takes up a lot of your time.
Yeah. Like preparing 5 minutes of material is and stretching it out for an hour is really, really difficult. So I don't have a lot of opportunity to do that.
Well, as you can see, as me trying to pull my weight here, I've hired a permanent bartender, as you can see.
Yeah, thanks for nothing.
Yeah, I know. We had an ad out for like months and months and months, and we can't get anybody to replace Tilly that used to be our head bartender. And I didn't know whatever happened with that. You never told me who we hired.
Some dude. He said he worked for some podcast named Haunt something or other. Haunt Cast, I think it was. Have you ever heard of it?
Those guys are the worst.
Oh my God.
There's that egotistical host. There's that other freak that did some kind of weird voiceover nonsense. There were a bunch of other idiots on the show. There was like idiot that just laughed and laughed and laughed through horror reviews.
It's a cringe.
That guy was the worst.
Cringe fest.
Exactly. So what are his qualifications? So he worked for a podcast? Who the hell wants to hire anybody that works for a podcast?
As I made him a deal. I said, hey, look, if you can work for Natty Light and Candy Corn, you're hired. And he was in, so that was it.
And he jumped at that?
Yeah.
Well, who wouldn't?
So what's on tap? What's on tap for this EP?
I think we're just doing a bunch of movies, right?
Yeah.
And we'll just hit a bunch of movies. I think we're going to talk about the Munsters, Werewolf by Night from Disney Plus by Marvel, Halloween Ends, of course. And I think you caught Smile. So do we want to start off with that?
Whatever direction you want to go in, my friend.
That'd be great, because I need to drink something right now. So go ahead. Why don't you take the steering wheel?
Well, first off, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share with all your frenemies. Stab the bell or do whatever you got to do so you get notifications. All right, so we're going to talk about Smile, huh? All right, here we go. First off, I broke my cardinal rule.
Oh, no.
Okay?
Which is
go to the theater on a Friday or a straight. without a liter of friggin' vodka in my jacket or some edibles.
Dude, you have to go matinee, like old lady, early bird special. You can't go at nighttime.
Dude, I went on a Saturday night. What is up with people going to a movie and not shutting their fucking pie hole? Oh my God.
You need to shut the fuck up.
If you want to ramble like an asshole, why don't you start a YouTube channel like we did? You know what I'm saying?
And invite your 7 friends who will listen.
So I get in just before the movie starts, and that whole front, nobody ever sits in that like real front closed section, so nobody was there.
No, except when we went to see the Nightmare Before Elm Street remake, and we were literally in the front row.
And we had whiplash from like our neck was so bent so far
and I didn't
back.
shut up the whole time because I had no inhibitions because the movie was so bad.
Like you had 20 shots and 50 beers, and you also smoked up before we went in there.
Trying to, a certain somebody from the old show used to try to keep up with me and had no chance.
No, not at all. Denny was asleep in one booth. I was freaking, oh my God. Anyway, so I'm sitting there for like 10 minutes, and then so I had the whole front section all to myself, and then these three douchebags come in after the movie's been on for 10 minutes. They come in, jump in right in front of me, in the row right in front of me, and just start fucking talking and just wouldn't shut up. And then I'm like, I didn't even let it happen for like 2 seconds before I yelled at him. I go, we're in a movie. Like I felt like that. Get off my lawn. I had to yell at them and go like, we're in a movie. Shut the fuck up.
You've embraced your inner Bob.
So of course, right away, now they hate me. So now they're not inclined to keep their mouths shut if they would be anyway. So I look over. I'm sitting there, and it's just irritating the shit out of me. I'm trying to get into the movie. I look over, and there's like a couple rows back. There's another seat over there. So I get out, move over, sit next to another couple who won't shut the fuck up. I'm like, God damn. I ended up finally after because I'm like the movie was. I was just starting to get into it, and I'm like, it's just these people are taking me out of the movie. I went down the road. Like once you enter the theater, there was like there's like a wall that you go down like this aisle, and then the theater's on the left. It's a very small theater. So I went all the way back to the rear door, like where you enter, and just stood there and watched the movie from there for the rest of the night, just so I could not be bothered, and I could barely hear any of them. So it was fine. But it was just anyway. How about to the movie?
Think they're on their podcast right now talking about Karen at the movie theater, the old man who
he's just some angry old man who hates joy.
What's the guy equivalent of Karen? Isn't there a name?
I don't know. I think it's actually Ken,
right? I was Ken. Anyway, how about we get to a movie instead of me bitching?
That was it. So that's your movie review. That might be bad.
No, it's just me being stupid enough to go to the movie theater on a Friday or Saturday night at peak time. Before we get into Smile, I know this wasn't on our watch list or anything, but based on all of the internet hype, I thought I would try to catch Hocus Pocus 2. I accidentally, wink, wink, watched Hocus Poke Us, Double D. And, I realized about halfway through, based on the excessive amount of penetration, that, I just might have been watching the wrong movie. Maybe I shouldn't have tried to stream it on Pornhub. Go figure. Lesson learned. Anyway, on to Smile, written and directed by Parker Quinn, which is his first major release, starring Sosie Bacon as Dr. Rose Cotter. So after witnessing a traumatic incident involving a patient, Dr. Rose Cotter starts experiencing frightening occurrences that she can't explain. Rose must confront her troubling past in order to survive and escape her horrifying new reality. So Rose sets out on a mission to find out why this is all happening. And she discovers that it's kind of like a bad case of herpes. Not that I would know anything about that. But it was like a curse, and it got passed along from one person to another. If you saw the individual get taken over / killed, if you were in the room with them, then you became infected, and then then it was after you, and you only had, I think they would said the average person didn't last more than like 4 to 7 days before then they were brutally, like they committed suicide or were killed. Kind of becomes reconnected with her old boyfriend who was a cop, and whatever, he does some looking into it, finds out there was like 20 other cases of fatal deaths, all with the same kind of MO. And her boyfriend thinks she's just totally psycho. And a lot of the movie you're trying to figure out, is she really just insane? Like, she's a psychologist, but is she kind of losing her mind and slipping in? She had a really bad past with her mother. Is that where this is going? Is it all just like that? Is that going to be the big switch up at the end, the big twist? As we're trying to keep it non-spoilery, I'll keep it really basic. There was some great tension throughout the movie. There was some fun but not cheesy startle scares used sparingly throughout the movie. The build-up and the ending are extremely satisfying. I mean, I'm actually surprised that Quinn had the balls to take it there, but he did. So just to keep it simple, about a 3.5 out of almost 4 Thunderbolts, I would give it. It was a real fun movie, and I enjoyed it beyond having to deal with the shitheads in the movie theater.
Cool. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check it. I think it might have been on demand. I wasn't sure, but I haven't had time to actually get out to see it. So based on that stellar review, of course, all of us now are going to want to rush out and see Smile.
Is it going to be a run at the box office?
Yes, exactly. Moving on. Let's talk about Rob Zombie's The Munsters. By now, everybody knows that Rob Zombie did a prequel film for Netflix detailing the before times of the television show that we all know and love. The movie is basically about the creation of Herman, as well as Lily and Herman's courtship, and then how Lily, Herman, and Grandpa end up moving to California and take up residence at 1313 Mockingbird Lane. What I will say about this movie is, and it's what we had talked about when we first previewed the idea of the film, visually, it's just stunning. In terms of costuming, set design, set detail, the lighting, the makeup, it's just stellar. I mean, you could just sit there and watch it just in terms of application to your home hunt, applications for a pro hunt, and just the way that everything is set is just simply gorgeous. To look at it, it's fantastic.
Yeah, if you had a Halloween party and you just had like music playing and turn this on like on a big screen and just let it run.
Or if you had the volume all the way down and you put up a projector or a sheet in your driveway on the garage or on a tree, and you just have that in your background, it's gorgeous, because the color and the juxtaposition of the camera with angles and the set design and everything else, it's great. It just looks great. Now, does that make a good film? Absolutely not. I think the storyline really, I understood what he was going for. I would say maybe halfway through you start to get the vibe of the television show, but unfortunately a lot of the jokes just really fall flat. I don't think that it really captures the zeitgeist and the chemistry of the show. Acting wise, I actually like Jeff Daniel Phillips, and I think of all the actors, he came closest to recreating what made Fred Gwynn's Herman so likable and just such a great comedic character. Daniel Roebuck as Grandpa, I think, was less successful. I thought he came off a little flat, and I'm not talking about Sherry at all. So, and I think the rest of the actors, I was really surprised because, when we reviewed Barbarian, I was really stoked to see that Richard Brake made an appearance. And in this, I think his performance was really bizarre and just really flat. Even Jorge Garcia as Floop, I thought was odd. It was nice to see Cassandra Peterson show up at the end. I mean, she was delightful, but otherwise, I just didn't get into it. I thought it was boring in parts. I don't think that it really captured the energy and the parody vibe of the Universal Monsters that the original did. And I think a lot of that also, because you were lacking Marilyn, you were lacking Eddie, you were lacking the interaction with the humans, and it does come in later in the film, but when they're interacting with quote unquote normal people, I think that's where the show was always at its funniest, because you are dealing with the monsters thinking that they're the normies and then everyone else is crazy, which was always great comedic fodder. I just found it really flat. I didn't think the jokes really landed. I thought a lot of it was very forced, and I was really super bored.
Boring.
So like I said, performance-wise, I think Jeff Daniel Phillips was good. I liked him a lot. I like him. And it's great to look at, but that does not make a good film. So
yeah, I think the biggest letdown of the movie is how unfunny it was. Not
Yeah.
one joke landed for me. I did not. Now, look, I've been unfunny on the internet for over 25 years, I think, or so whatever.
We're actually
however long it's
certified.
been.
We're actually certified not funny expert. We have PhDs in being not funny.
We're unfresh. We're unfunny.
Yeah, I have my certificate right up on the wall right now.
Failed radio career, so I mean, I know.
Chris has his in macaroni art glued up on a piece of felt.
So what I'm saying is, I know unfunny is what I'm saying. and this
is unfunny. I know funny, and you're not funny. Yeah, that was my biggest issue with it.
And the thing I hate about it is I was just watching some interviews with Rob Zombie on like Joe Rogan's show, and he's just he seems so likable. Like he seems very like humble, and he's talking.
Chill.
He's a good dude,
absolutely.
and he's talking. He's a fellow masshole, which I completely always forget that for some reason. Wanted to like it, and it was once again just not funny, which is the biggest travesty of the movie.
The other thing is, it's funny because I said it seems overly long and it's overly boring. I also think that originally everyone assumed it was just going to be a theatrical release, and then all of a sudden at the last minute it's like, no, this is direct to Netflix, which again, that's a Universal deal, had nothing to do with Rob Zombie. But I almost think this might have benefited from being maybe like a 6-part Netflix series. Do you know what I mean? And then actually would get a little bit of time to breathe, and you might maybe even you do it as a half hour segments or something, or you do it as a 40-minute 6-part show, and then you can maybe get a little bit funnier, or you can do something else. Now, if they ever did a sequel, maybe that would work a little bit better, but like I said, I just didn't really like this at all. So why don't we move on? I don't know if you caught it, but something that I was interested in, because I'm a huge Marvel Comics 70s horror fan, was Werewolf by Night. And Werewolf by Night, again, Jack Russell was one of the monsters introduced in the 70s by Marvel Comics after the Comics Guide sort of dropped its standards a little bit with regard to violence and gore and such. So they were allowed to reintroduce sort of the classical monsters. So you had Dracula, you had Frankenstein, you had the living mummy, you had the zombie, and they introduced Jack Russell, the Werewolf by Night. You also had Son of Satan and Ghost Rider and so forth in the 70s. So like Marvel 70s, to me, horror is just awesome. So something I've always looked forward to is seeing the monsters up on screen. And again, much like the rest of the Marvel extended universe, whether it's film or whether it's all these Disney Plus TV shows, they take liberties, obviously, with the comic material. So I've kind of gotten over the fact that, well, this isn't exactly the comic book. This isn't exactly the storylines as they played out. So, I'm going to take all of those criticisms out of what I'm about to say. But, Werewolf by Night here, I think, really is interesting in that it is a departure from what everything else that they've been doing, either cinematically or on Disney Plus, their television shows. I think the closest sort of departure-wise thought process, if you're going to make it a comparison, would be maybe WandaVision, because that was very non-linear, that was very non-straightforward Marvel storytelling, and this is really a throwback to the Universal horror that we all know and love. The black and white cinematography obviously is part of that. And this is steeped very much in a classical horror kind of vibe, which again is very different than anything else they've ever done. So we have this whole group of monster hunters who are gathering because they all want to possess the Bloodstone. And it's really just an excuse to have practical effects, which I thought were awesome. The fact that you have Jack Russell turn into the werewolf. And one of my other favorite characters from the 70s is also Man-Thing, which is awesome because, again, DC introduced Swamp Thing, Marvel introduced Man-Thing pretty much at the same time. And we've also talked about in the past, those are both sort of based on the Heap from, I think, the 40s and the 50s. He was in Airboy and stuff. So it was really great to see, number one, the practical effects. You had a practical werewolf application. You had a practical Man-Thing costume, which is just awesome. Again, if you could tell 7-year-old me that I'm going to someday be sitting in my house watching a black and white Marvel TV show featuring Werewolf by Night and Man-Thing, you'd knock me over with a feather. They also have Elsa Bloodstone, which was a little bit of a departure, although I just said I'm not going to complain about this, from her comic persona. It threw me off, though, that she literally looked like a Jessica Jones clone, the Jessica Jones Netflix series. So I thought it was bizarre because at first I'm like, she looks just like Jessica Jones. And in the comic, Elsa's pretty much now, she's this buxom, redheaded, swashbuckling kind of, blunt, guns blazing kind of character. So it was a little bit off-putting when I first saw it. But again, this is its own vibe. It's its own universe. I liked it. I thought it was a little short. I think this actually would have breathed a little bit better, again, if it was a little bit longer, or even maybe a 6-part series. But I'm happy what we got. Hopefully this will be the impetus for Marvel to do more and expand their horror corner of the universe. The Blade reboot was coming out. He was teased at the end of Eternals, but now I just saw that the reboot's been shelved because they're looking for a new director and they want to tweak the script. So I would have liked to have seen Blade show up in this, but I'm also okay that he didn't, because now we have the Werewolf, we have Man-Thing, and this is a great opportunity for Marvel, whether it's TV or whether then it is maybe in a Blade movie or another film, to have this corner of the universe. They've gone superhero, they've gone cosmic, they've gone street heroes, and this is another chance they've done magic. So this is another area that they can delve into. And there's so much material there that I look forward to it. But it was fun. It was short. It was a nice Halloween treat. And if you're a fan of the comics, and even if you're not, and you're just a fan of classic horror, I think you would definitely dig it.
Yeah, Disney needs content for that Disney Plus, man. So they probably will have more coming up.
Yep.
What are we on to? We're on to Halloween Ends.
Yeah, I think that's the last thing that I have to talk about. So again, we're trying to do this spoiler free, but this is the third movie in the David Gordon Green trilogy that started off with Halloween and then Halloween Kills and now Halloween Ends. This purports to be the final film featuring Laurie Strode in her showdown with Michael Myers. This film is set 4 years after Halloween Kills, and Laurie is now living with her granddaughter, Allison, and she's writing her memoir to kind of deal with everything that she's been going through for the past 40 some years. So it's interesting then, because Laurie sort of befriends this bullied teenager, Corey, and kind of like welcomes him in to the house, and then a bunch of stuff happens, we'll say that, and you slowly realize that he is not becoming the man that maybe Laurie had hoped that he would rehabilitate into, or something else has happened to him. And then, of course, all hell breaks loose, and then, the running and the screaming and the terror and the crying and the knifing and the bloodshed and screaming and wood chipper and everything else. I didn't like this at all. I thought this was pretty bad.
Yes, I can definitely smell shite.
I saw it in the theater yesterday, and it was really, really disappointing. I understood thematically what the director and the script was trying to do, in the sense of they were playing with the idea that Michael Myers is not a man. He is not real. So they played up a little bit of the supernatural. They played up the idea of he is simply evil. He is the embodiment of evil, but evil is ever changing. Evil is ever present. If you remember at the end of the original Carpenter film, they show the various rooms of the homes. They show the various scenes of Haddonfield with the breathing, as if the town's been infected by the evil personified by the man, Michael Myers. You've had allusions to maybe some supernatural connections or some supernatural twist with Halloween 4, Halloween 5, where you had his niece connected to him psychically, or possibly being possessed by his evil. And I think that's what they were going here. the jarring thing to me was that, to me, if you're going to call this Halloween Ends and it's going to be the culmination of everything you've been doing with this reboot of the idea that this is a direct sequel to the original Halloween and this is simply Laurie Strode's story, I just don't think this worked, because it really just focused on a completely new character that was just dumped out of nowhere. And there's a lot of weird choices in terms of the direction of the story, the way that they presented this other character, and then sort of the way that he just sort of devolved, and the way that Allison, Laurie's granddaughter, just sort of devolved. Now, again, does this play into the idea that the town's been infected, the town folk have been infected, which we've seen before? There's been bullying, there's been not so nice things said in Halloween 4, Halloween 5, I think even in the new Halloween Kills, obviously. The idea that Michael's presence is simply evil, and he brings this evil to spread among everyone in Haddonfield. It's interesting, and I get what they were going for, but so often, the beginning of the movie, I was like, okay, this isn't bad, and then maybe the last 10 minutes was actually, this is great. If it was an end, I'll put it this way. Number one, if this wasn't like just another entry in the series, and we knew there were going to be another 2 Halloweens after this or something, I might go, okay, well, this wasn't the strongest entry in the franchise, but it really wasn't my thing. I get what they were going for. I know what they were trying to do. They're trying to turn it on its head. They're trying to introduce some new elements to the franchise and pick up on some themes and play with ideas that have been introduced in past films. I get it. But number 2, I would also say, if this was not a Halloween movie, if this was just sort of a very coded, I don't want to say parody, but takeoff on Halloween, where you have the idea, where there was an original killer and then there's sort of this other person and they've become whatever happened in the original film, it may have worked a little bit better. But too much, it just played like a family drama or a teen drama, and I just wasn't invested in it. Anytime Laurie was on, I dug it.
Yeah.
But otherwise, the fact that here's, and I'll just end with this. The fact that Michael himself, the man, was so minimized throughout the entire film.
Yeah, it was Corey's movie, not Michael Myers' movie.
But again, I guess the idea is, what I'm saying is that Michael is actually, so what they're playing with is here is that Michael is not the man. Michael's the personification of evil. So it's sort of this evil's been spread across the town like your scorching case of herpes.
You dirty bird.
So I get it, but if this is the way you're going to send off Laurie Strode and that you're going to conclude her story in this timeline, I just wanted something else. Like, I wanted it to just focus on Laurie, because she was sidelined in the last film. I mean, she had literally a couple scenes in the last one, and it really, really pissed me off, just because, again, you're bringing this back, you're rebooting it as Laurie Strode's story. So I was really disappointed. I mean, I love Jamie Lee Curtis. I was glad to see her back. I didn't mind, like I said, I would say the last 10, 15 minutes were fine. But again, that was even a little bit weird. Like the very, very ending, I thought was a little bit weird. But I was super disappointed. So that's my 5 cents.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wasn't happy with it either. I left. I was like, yeah, whatever. I didn't expect it to be good going into it, though I was hoping it would be.
But I also didn't think it would be this bad.
Yeah. I'm like, what? Once again, minimal Michael Myers, mostly a love story between Corey and Allison. I just thought it was hilarious too that the thought process of how do they, so instead of, you don't make a band of jocks that are terrorizing Corey or some punks or metal kids or something. It's a roving gang of band geeks that are terrorizing Corey throughout the movie.
That was the other thing where I was like, wait, what? Like, Haddonfield is a really rough town.
Where even the band geeks you can't handle.
And also, like, that dude, like the lead bad dude, he reminded me, remember Doogie Howser's like best friend that would like climb through the window?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, Doogie Howser's friend, like, chill. It was a very odd, and a lot of the dialogue was odd, and the editing and pacing was odd. It just felt like a very strange movie, and I just don't know that this is how like I said, I would have gone to conclude Laurie's story.
Yeah, it was weak.
I agree.
I guess just to wrap things up, Romero's classic Dawn of the Dead is in 3D and is coming to select theaters throughout the country. So check your local theaters and see. It looks like it's going to run for like a 4-day weekend or something like that through the 28th through the 31st. So I think it's Regal Cinemas that's doing this, if I'm not mistaken. And I think it's going to be at like 250 theaters throughout the country. So if you want to check it out. So for the next amazing episode, do you want to get into? We'll talk a little bit. There'll be a couple of issues of Sergeant Rock out versus the Army of the Dead. We can kind of tap into that. Maybe the Creep Show.
Sure.
It's been out. We can talk a little comics, a little comic foolishness. Oh, and maybe the Cabinet of Curiosities on Netflix.
Absolutely.
And Halloween, our massive, major Halloween wrap-up between Johnny Bubba Thunder at the Bates Motel and Haunted Hayride and whatever the hell I'm called at the Village Meyer Home Haunt here in Cape Cod. We'll wrap it up and tell you about all our shenanigans.
And I'm sure we'll hear from Scully next time, right?
Yeah, we'll work Scully in there somewhere, you know. I mean, he wants to do a little bit more than just bartending. We'll see how it goes.
Well, I can't be worse than you two a-holes.
Okay.
I mean,
what could go wrong?
I mean, maybe we'll get him. I mean, we seem to in the bar right now. We seem to have more dancers than patrons, and a bartender who seems to only serve us. So I don't know how we make money off of this establishment.
I don't know either. Those PPP loans are coming in handy. All right. Well, everybody, as always, thank you for listening. This is Johnny Thunder along with the genius Chris Baker, and we just want to say, I guess what? Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween! Ladies and gentlemen, due to circumstances beyond our control, we are unable to continue the broadcast.
But I can't leave them. I can't. Yes. Go. You live.
I'm going now. Heaven help you.